So yeah, we are here to talk about the Change It Up toolkit specifically. But I think before we do that, we need some background. And so how we're going to sort of structure this time is a little bit of time background. Like, so where did this come from? What is it? A few people on the call know some of this, but probably doesn't hurt hearing some of it again. And then really look at what is it that we're offering, and is it for you? What would it look like? What's needed beforehand? And we're going to try to leave at least 20 minutes, maybe a little bit more, for Q&A. I am going to go pretty quickly because what I'm covering is a lot of the background. And I want to leave enough time for Marcia to really get into some of the details. So Change It Up is an initiative of the Classroom Connections that, as I said, started about just over 10 years ago, actually maybe it's 12 now. Before that, for another 10 years before that, Classroom Connections has been focused on trying to improve education, K-12 education, so that it works for everybody. Because we think right now that there's lots of people that are left out of the traditional system. And so we made a lot of resources and did things like that to support schools, but it really wasn't enough to create any kind of systems change. So about 12 years ago, we started working with First Nations communities because for sure, too many First Nations people are being left out in every way, but certainly, out of the results of what should be the results of the education system. So we thought, let's change it up. Let's try very alternative programming with First Nations communities and in partnership with them, really. And so the what is, Change It Up is really a philosophy. It's a philosophy that everybody has value, everybody has goals, everybody has something that they can bring to the table and bring to this world. And the workshops are designed around that philosophy to help people see it for themselves. So we ran for over 10 years consecutively, 6-month full-time programs with 15 to 25 people in each program. So we started those in Chipewyan Prairie, which is between Fort Mac, just south of Fort Mac. And then we moved to the Musqueam communities. We also did some work with Big Stone. And people outside it, people off reserve have also utilized and tried some of these different things. So it's not a First Nations specific program by any means, but this is where we've done the most pilot work. So we have done it in a number of variations, several years of entrepreneurship training, several connected to trades training. We did a social enterprise where we renovated a cafeteria with the students and turned it into this beautiful work of art. And then the students ran it as a full service restaurant in the community. And we had a lot of fun, but now it's really time to share. So that's what this is about. And what we want to do now is share everything that we've learned through, I think it's very fair to say blood, sweat, and tears. And so the toolkit is really all of that brought together. We've tried to make it into something that's very easy to use and brings all the tools together that you would need to either have a standalone program like we've done. So we've generally run them as 6-month full-time programs, but they don't need to be run like that. You could take 1 or 2 workshops and tie it into something else that you've done or something else that you're going to do. And that's why I shared the different versions that we've done, because you could be running a hospitality program, or could be running a basic life skills program. Whatever it is that's designed to make a difference in people's lives and help them to get somewhere that's next. We think that there's value that you can find in using some of the toolkit. So just a little bit elaborating on the philosophy. So it's really a very extensive collection of experiential workshops. It uses the learning through philosophy. So people aren't sitting in a class learning about something. The activities and the way Suzanne has structured the workshops is so that the experiences themselves are where most of the learning comes from. And it's designed really, in the words of Gabor Mate, to help people feel a sense of belonging and purpose. And I'm sure, we've had lots of conversations with some of the people in this group, and we know that it's not so much the hard skills, it's not the academic things that people are missing in their life that are really creating the gaps. It's those soft things. And when people have a sense of belonging and purpose, it can really help get them to where they want to be. So we feel that's pretty foundational to this whole thing. So the kit includes everything. It's facilitator guide, it's facilitator training, the implementation guide, and the curriculum, which is, I think when we're testing it right now, it's approximately 15 workshops, and there's going to be 20 when we're totally finished. But anybody that pilot tests will actually get the additional workshops too. So who is it for? It's for everyone. Everyone can use Change It Up. Because everybody probably wants to change it up. As I often do say at the beginning of programs with students, you're not here to keep your life the same. Otherwise, this program would be called Stay the Same It Up, and it's not. It's about growth. And I think most people that facilitate want that growth too. So any kind of program that you're running, there's likely a place that something that's here could fit in. Again, builds foundational skills, helps to get to the barriers. It's very easy to use and implement. The workshops are laid out so well and so clearly, and everything that you need to run each workshop is there. So it's a really complete package. And the last point, right now it's free. We can't promise it's going to be free forever, but we know right now it is free. And the only thing that we're really looking for is feedback. So the facilitator training is free. And then once you've done that, you get all of the programming. And what we really want is to know, how did it go? Because we're trying to make this available to everybody, but we're in this point now where, we want to start that process and we need feedback to do that. So does it work? Yes, it really does work. These are some of the stats that we've collected. Most of our funding for this has been through Employment and Skills Development Canada, federal government, always with some funding from the province so that students got the learner's allowance. We've had different corporate partners also involved, but we owe a huge grant of gratitude to the federal government and to the Alberta government for the support we've had over the years. I think the last one, we were a little shocked when we just recently did some analysis to find that 75% of the people that were employed at the end of the program were still employed 2 months later. So, those are nice statistics, but I think you get a better sense of things from looking at some of the words that people have said. We just had an incredible thing happen. One of our previous facilitators and also the person who's helped bring the program to Musqueam, a guy named Derek Bruno, hired an electrician to come to do some work at his house, and he lives off the reserve. And the guy had a mask on because this was just the other day. And then he said, it's so nice to hire a fellow Indigenous entrepreneur to do some work in my house. And the guy said, yeah, well, I did the Change It Up Trades program and I've just never stopped. And I'm going to take my master electrician next week. And Derek started crying, and then he sent me a note and I started crying, and I sent it out to Suzanne. But it was like, wow, that is incredible. So toolkit. This is where we are now, and this is where I turn it over to Marcia to discuss more about the toolkit and what it might mean to anybody here.
Great.
Marcia.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Heather. So we're going to pause here for just 1 minute. So if anybody doesn't have a piece of paper and a pen or a pencil or something to write with, I'm going to give you exactly 1 minute to gather those supplies because we're going to need it for an activity coming up here as we talk about what is the facilitator training, what can you expect, and is it something that you want to take, and will it fit into your life where you are right now? So Heather, you can decide when the minute is up.
I will, and I'll let you know you're not under time crunch because I managed to rip through that in 15 minutes.
Oh my goodness, you did. Okay.
Yeah,
great.
Hopefully I wasn't too fast, but we can always go back at the end if people missed anything.
Totally, absolutely. Okay. So here we go. Let's talk about the facilitator training. There we go. Okay. So first bit, so who could benefit? So let's see if this is you. So it's for anybody who wants to grow their facilitation practice. So maybe you have a bit of experience and you're wanting to, I like what Bernice said at the beginning, dig around into some curriculum and some training and get a bit deeper into what it means to facilitate learning experiences for adult learners. So that would be the first one. The second thing is, yeah, you want to see people in your programs building those foundational skills. And when we talk about foundational skills and change it up, we're obviously talking about like the reading, the writing, the arithmetic, those sorts of things. But we also lean heavily on the skills for success and essential skills framework. So we talk about collaboration, teamwork, digital communication skills, oral communication skills, but also then digging a bit deeper into that in terms of like what personal skills of resiliency do we need for lifelong learning. So, which is great. Yeah, and a commitment to long-term client resiliency and success. So this basically means like anybody who's really serious about wanting to unearth those tools and that knowledge and those skills that will really give people the tools that they need to be resilient and successful. And that's really getting at like a love of lifelong learning. So if you are really interested in learning brand new things, then this is definitely for you as well. And yes, of course, we definitely want people who want to test the pilot or do the pilot testing of the materials, both the facilitator training and the materials, because we're really interested in hearing that feedback. We think we've built something really amazing, but we want to hear what other people have to say too. So we're excited to be able to share that with you. Okay, so you might be sitting there thinking, so you told me what it's all about, but I'm still not quite sure if this is for me. So we're going to talk a bit about what are the prerequisites. So number one, again, we want to know that you're interested in actually doing the pilot testing of some Change It Up workshops. And we can talk a bit about that because obviously COVID has changed things and we're doing really experiential workshops. So that might look a bit different in the next little bit, but we can save that kind of for the Q&A at the end. But the important part is that we definitely want people who are going to be pilot testing these workshops with the people that they work with. So next, yeah, so we've got some pre-work activities that will come around the facilitator training. Depending on your learning style, it could be anywhere from like 1 to 2 hours a week. There's some guiding questions that you'll end up doing in the guide, and then there's some home practice or some home kind of thinking and conversations to have before you show up at the training. And next is, yeah, a commitment to active and engaged participation. So our training is very hands-on because one of the pieces of the philosophy of Change It Up is experiential. Our facilitator training is also very experiential. You'll be paired up with people for discussions. There will be activities that you're going to do during the webinar. So unfortunately for this training, you can't just show up and turn your camera off. We're going to need you participating and engaging in the training. Oh, great. And then lastly is a change it up mindset. So we're going to do a little bit of an activity to see exactly what that means. So this is where you're going to need your piece of paper and your pencil or pen. And you want to number your page 1 to 6. And we're going to do a little true false activity. So number 1. I'm going to read it and then you can answer true, false. So number 1, it's important to identify problems our participants are experiencing in order to help them. True or false? All right, number 2, building trusting relationships with participants is more important than completing the curriculum. True or false? Number 3, sometimes you have to set clear and strict behavior standards to ensure everyone can have a good learning experience. True or false? All right, number 4, helping participants build self-care practices is important to employment. True or false? And number 5, people have to leave their personal problems at the door so everyone can learn. True or false? And number 6, great facilitation means keeping control of the classroom and determining what participants need. True or false? Okay, so now that we did that little activity, we're going to go over the answers. And if you like, you can put your answer in the chat box. But if you want to keep it to yourself, you can do that too. So here we go. Number 1, it's important to identify our problems. Or sorry, I can't read all of a sudden. It's important to identify problems our participants are experiencing in order to help them. So Heather, before you put up the answer, let's see if people, okay, here we go. Got some, want to put your answer in the box. Let's see. Okay. Great. What's the answer, Heather? The answer is true. Yeah, exactly. So if you answered true, you totally got it. So Change It Up is a philosophy and it's built on 5 principles, and we call them the Fab 5. And so one of the principles is that our program is holistic, which means seeing the person as a whole as they come through the door and being able to facilitate growth and to identify those barriers and help people move past them in all aspects of their life, social, emotional, physical, and spiritual realms. Great. Okay, number 2, true or false? Let's see. What did you think? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. This is great. Congratulations. Okay, so the next answer is true. Yeah, so one of the principles about Change It Up is that it is about trusting relationships and building those relationships between the facilitator and the people in the program so that we can create learner-centered, hands-on experiences so that people feel like they're co-creators of their learning within the program and it's not a top-down dissemination model. So that's great. Okay, number 3. Sometimes you have to set clear and strict standards. So what was your answer? You can throw it in the chat box. True or false? Yeah, so just as I expected, there's people answering true and there's people answering false. And so from a Change It Up perspective, the answer is false because there's 2 key words in there that make it false. The number 1 is strict behavior standards, and the other word is you. So you being the facilitator. So one of the Fab 5 of Change It Up is being trauma aware. And within that trauma awareness comes the responsibility of the facilitator and the group as a whole to create a safe space for learning where people can show up as they are. So that doesn't mean that there are no community guidelines or there are no behavior standards. What it means is that you as the facilitator don't have to make those on your own, and you actually create those with the group and you create a set of core agreements together. So that's really getting at everybody's in this together and we're working together. Yeah, okay. Number 4, true or false? True. Yes. Okay. Yes. The answer is, if you answered true, you are correct. So one of my favorite things about the Change It Up program is that there's these two principles, which like about being holistic and also trauma aware. And the way that we've approached that through our workshops is by taking a body-based approach. So not only do we have workshops that help people tune into their body and understanding how like stress and anxiety can show up in their body, we also are going to be teaching some of those tools and skills within the facilitator training so that you can use them, and you can also use them with the people that you have working with you as well. And because I don't know. I don't know if I had an end. Okay, next one. Keep going, Heather. We're on, okay, so number 5, personal problems at the door, false. Oh, I said the answer out loud early. Okay, so we said false. And the reason why we said false is because of the principle of being strength-based and holistic. So people are going to have problems. They are going to carry them into the classroom with us. And there are going to be times where, as a facilitator and as a group, addressing those problems within the program is going to be appropriate. But there's also times where this is also true, because there are times when we don't want to have things that are happening outside of the classroom or outside of the learning community coming in there and disrupting the things that are happening within the group. And Change It Up's approach is very group and relationship oriented. So the ups and downs and energy of one person can sometimes interrupt that. But what I like about Change It Up as well is circling back to what I said on the question before about being using a body-based approach to trauma and anxiety, is that we do teach those skills to be able to help people presence themselves in the moment and be able to kind of like put those things on the shelf for now and pick them back up at a more appropriate time. So that was kind of a trick question. All right, and number 6. Is a great facilitator. Okay, false. One answer. Yeah, exactly. So those of you that answered false, you're right. So the 2 trick words in there as well was this word control and the word determining. So a great facilitator is there to help bring out the learning of the people that are in front of them. They're not in control of what's going on, and they definitely don't determine exactly what participants need. They become co-creators within the classroom because, I don't know about you, but I don't like being told what to do all the time. And I also want to be able to participate in decisions about my life. So there you go. So that one would be false. So that's it. So what we're really saying is there's 3 key things to being a Change It Up facilitator. 1, do you have an open heart and an open mind? Are you ready to shift and do things differently? And are you ready to grow not only in your professional practice, but also in your personal practice as well? And the last bullet really is the reason why I love being a Change It Up facilitator. So like Heather said, I've been doing this for about 4 years now. And the amount of personal and professional growth that I have experienced by being a facilitator and walking alongside people in their journeys has just been mind-blowing. Like I am definitely a better person because I facilitated a Change It Up program. So that's something, if that's something that really interests you, I definitely encourage you to come in and be part of our training. So there you go. So that's kind of all the personal mindset kind of stuff about what it means to be a Change It Up facilitator. So now we're going to get into the logistics of just like what to expect in terms of the training that we have coming up here. So it's going to be online, 4 2-hour sessions, lots of group sharing and interactive and participatory. We want to be able to give you tools that you can actually take out of the training and implement the very next day with the people that you're working with. Like we said, there is going to be pre-work before the sessions, and we're going to be going over that, and it will inform some of the training. And then, like Heather said, for us, a really important key piece is we want to share this with you And then we're really interested in hearing your feedback on it and how we can make it better and change it so that everybody can use it, because we really do believe that this is something that everybody can use and everybody needs in order to live a life of meaning and purpose and have a sense of belonging, which is what it's really all about.